Good evening, gorgeous souls. Happy Monday. For those of you that haven't caught me live before, my name's Allera Dawn. I'm known as the modern day high priestess, and I've created something called Ask Allera. So you'll be able to catch these live streams on repeat on my Allera Dawn LinkedIn page or YouTube. So I'm streaming across quite a few platforms. So connect, pop some comments in, let me know where you're joining from this evening. And if things are making sense to you, then I invite you to also just pop some comments, because I want the interaction, because then I can feed off the collective group field and channel more information through for you. So interestingly, the question that came through for this week, which was really in alignment with what I'm seeing as a theme across many different communities and also my clients, is how do I figure out what I truly desire so that I can actually go ahead and manifest it? So I'm going to zoom out and take a few different lenses of perspective: a collective lens, somebody that's already on their path lens, and somebody that is perhaps new to the awakening, expanded consciousness, healing journey, where they're trying to figure out really the basics of the toolkit of how to navigate the inner world when we're going through all these different collective shifts and inner shifts, and to kind of recognize that they will be working cohesively, because individually what we are creating and how we're evolving as a soul is adding to the collective changes that are going on. So it's not that we're getting pulled along by the planets. The planets will highlight karmically what we need to clear or elevate or become aware of our unconscious, but our soul timings, our soul contracts will be in alignment with cosmic order. So that means that you have a really strong influence over really the path you take, how frequently and how fast you elevate, the quantum leaps. And I'm going to be giving you this context through the lens of really the higher perspective, 5D and above, meaning soul perspective and above, meaning we are playing in the world of quantum, which is out of the general 3D timeline. So when we're looking at 3D timeline, you are directed and constructed and connected into fear, scarcity, literally linear time. It must take X amount of time to create this. You must go through a hierarchical process to achieve something. Those are man-made constructs, man-made beliefs, meaning they're not divine whole truths. There are other realities, other choices. If you didn't hold those beliefs about something, you're free to create differently. And this is where it's a really, really pivotal time with what's happening collectively, because we are on this changing of the guard precipice, meaning that there is going to be a shift at the end of March, which is going to collectively change really where they've been giving their power away. Have they been given it in the pyramid up to the authorities and that level, or have they been actually able to go inwards and redirect the ship towards their heart, their soul, and their core beliefs and values? So when we're looking at where do we start with this, I'm going to first off look at somebody that is new to the awakening experience, somebody that maybe is also new to doing any inner work. So the first things first are, if you are getting to that point where you are kind of a bit lost, you don't know really what you want, you haven't felt that drive 100% knowing that you want to step into something, you don't have that excitement towards something, it's allowing you to pause. And this is actually quite uncomfortable for a lot of people, because they can't sit in that void of unknowing. But actually what it is doing for you is allowing you to pause so that you can be at a choice point, rather than careering off into a direction that may not really be your highest timeline or path. It allows you to actually pause with the spaciousness of really the next month to do some inner reflection, some inner alchemy around, up until this point, everything you have created has been based on your thoughts, your past choices, your karma, the beliefs you hold, the circle that you're in or circles that you're in. So that's a lot of stuff. So when we get to a point where we're beginning to realize that maybe I've been watching all these things online and I've been bought into somebody else's idealistic viewpoint of a lifestyle. So lots of lifestyle coaches. If we look at what happening in the Instagram field, we're being sold a lifestyle. So if, for example, you have bought into, whether it's the lifestyle of a celebrity, the lifestyle of whatever it may be, but it intrinsically has not been run back through your system to tune into, is this actually what my soul desires, what I feel would really give me the most fulfillment and satisfaction and excitement? Because often, because we've not been taught to go inwards and trust ourselves and trust that what we desire may be different from what our family wanted, what our work circle wanted, maybe even our partners or who we went to university with and our collective friendship groups, we tend to look outwards rather than in, meaning we follow the crowd, we keep up with the Joneses, we look at the next flashy thing that's being advertised to us, and we then make that the driving force to be why we purposely take a path. But there gets a point where we begin to realize that that isn't necessarily lighting us up. It doesn't really bring us the level of satisfaction we want. And it's kind of not filling that hole that you thought it would within you. So if this is resonating with you, pop a little emoji or connect with me and pop some comments in here. Have you come to a conclusion where you've been chasing certain goals or certain attainments, but you've got to a point where it feels like they're empty? You've got there, you've got the money, you've got the pay rise, you've got the whatever it was that you set out to create. And when you got there, it didn't give you the level of inner satisfaction that you were desiring. And I've been there. I remember many, many years ago when I was very young, like 23, and loads of focus on buying my first property. As soon as I got in there, I remember within weeks, I was online looking at how I could buy a house next. I didn't really lock in and appreciate what it was that I had actually achieved. I hadn't got into the immersion enjoyment stage of it. It was about what's the next thing? What's the next thing that I put my attention on to work towards? Because when I looked at it, really, if I was to go back now with the level of consciousness I had, I wouldn't have bought that first property. I would have waited and I would have made different choices. It's not about those things being wrong, but it was about recognizing that I was probably about 10 years younger than most people in the department I was in. And I was being influenced by what people much older than me were seeing as important. At 23, that's fine. But I was surrounded by people that had kids or were getting married or, were much, much older. So I essentially was accelerating my dreams and desires in alignment with their collective field of what was meant to be important, because that's what I was surrounded by all day. And they were my circle of influence. So I learned that, that was where we were meant to be working towards. And I obviously had collective beliefs of what success looked like, because I was in an environment where, outward success was very material linked. It wasn't about, it was very much like holidays and all these nice things. And that's amazing. Those are amazing things, but they were maybe not, I was not being driven by heart and soul at that point. Yes, they were amazing experiences. Yes, I had lots of fun. And no, I wouldn't reverse, engineer any of that stuff and erase it. But I was being influenced by my environment, by my collective field of, friends and colleagues around what I was directing my ship towards, what I was making my North Star, because I wasn't doing it from connecting to my inner world, because at that time, I wouldn't say I really knew who I was. I was, essentially gaining an identity by being in a environment which put a lot of prestige around the identity you had by being in that industry or by doing that job or by, having those opportunities in that environment. So what happens is we end up placing our values, perhaps not truly in the values of who we are, but in the values of the influence from our circumstances or who we're surrounded by. So what then happens is you end up creating a life which, what's the next thing? You buy the house, then you maybe get a dog or a cat, and you traveled around the world together. And the next thing is you get married. So it was a very clear trajectory by the circle that I was in, or not circle, or circles, that was really the path you took. And it was when I got to 28, I really started to have some massive interventions, soul interventions. I was engaged at that point. I was about to get married. I'd done all of these things. I traveled around the world. I'd had all these amazing experiences. I'd, really gone up the career ladder. But even through that time, I was going off and doing courses in like coaching, or I was doing, inner work with hypnosis or things like that, because I knew on some level there was something more for me. And I knew that it didn't reside in that industry, certainly not at that time. But you get caught up because ultimately your lifestyle is dependent on the salary that you've been earning. And there were no other examples. We didn't have access to the online world at that time to show other people that were doing it differently, or who had left and transitioned into something that looked different and maybe was more aligned to who they were. So I went through a massive process where literally I had an intervention of my soul, like kind of epiphanies, being shown loads of intuitive downloads, being shown really the zoom out, should I say, truth of the situation of what would happen if I went ahead and married that person. And I was shown that if I stayed with that person, within 10 years, I'd be a widow with 2 children. And it'd be very hard for me to be able to really be the person that I knew deep inside I wanted to be, or that she was in there. But I knew that there was going to have to be change in being honest with myself about how I was not particularly fulfilled in that relationship at that time. I felt quite lonely. I wasn't feeling like seen, and my needs weren't being met of the level of support that I should have had in that relationship. So I had to get really honest with my inner world and my inner needs, and then bring them to the table in my relationship as to, can we work at this and go for counseling and we grow together? Or do I have to be fully true to myself and know that the most honest and in integrity level of being with myself is that I need to unwind this? Because what ended up happening was that person would not take responsibility for their contribution in that partnership. They weren't willing to get support or help, but they were willing to just continue as it would have been and got married. I wasn't willing to do that. So I unraveled 7.5-year relationship, cancelled my wedding, cancelled the honeymoons, everything was booked, paid for, all the rest of it. And then I took that leap, knowing that firstly, that was the most authentic thing for me to do, but knowing that I was going to be rediscovering who I was, and that I wasn't aware with that level of change quite how I had created that relationship. There was some codependency in the relationship. How I had found myself in a situation where my needs were not being met. And I'm not talking like basic needs, but the needs of being, with a partner that is able to accept you for you, somebody who is there for you if something went wrong, like, somebody that had your back, somebody that had open communication, that you could dialogue about stuff. The communication had broken down. It just wasn't there at the level of emotional intelligence that I had cultivated and that I needed in that situation or going forward. So I had to come to that really kind of choice point where I had to choose myself, not knowing all the hows and how it was going to turn out, but knowing very deeply, intrinsically, that if I carried on where I was going, it was completely the wrong path. Now, I share this because this is almost like the big boot of the universe. This is like we've been ignoring these things for years. There were things in the relationship like a couple of years before where there'd been actually a big unveiling of stuff, like he'd been lying about things. My teams and my grandmother had died at that time as well. It was like this onslaught. Anywhere there was any illusion, any lies, anything, I said to him, like, you can't lie because I'm going to be shown everything. And that is pretty much now what happens in my life anyway, because my teams will show me if there's any discord. They were basically, I was being initiated to be honest with myself and to use my voice and to speak up, and to know that by me using my feet, by using my voice, by standing up for myself and what I desired, and knowing that I was worth more and what was in alignment with the values that I had for myself, but also in relation to another person in a relationship, I was being called to dig deep, to work out who I was, so know myself, in order to be whole in a connection, which ended up meaning I couldn't be in that situation. So I had to choose myself. I had to make those big choices and big life choices in order to stay in alignment. My massive piece of the soul level of my work, my healing work, really got activated after that. Prior to that, I had done bits and pieces, but I was really being put on a journey. And I say a journey because it's ongoing. I'm still working through different pieces of evolving into different levels of my soul consciousness. There will be different pieces that get activated. But now, because I understand the cycles and I understand how my soul is working in alignment with what is needed on this planet this time, me being positioned to have alchemized something so that I can give a higher level perspective to help others. If I'd stayed in that relationship, I would have been massively, massively off course and probably very depressed, probably would have felt very resentful, maybe had, manifested illness or injury because I needed to find a way of stopping being in the hamster wheel of being inauthentic in that relationship. And what probably would have also then come about is how authentic was I being in being fully myself in a work environment. And at that time, I would say it was really the massive catalyst to doing my inner work, knowing who I was and knowing that, I had to be in alignment with that in order to be in alignment and see alignment in my outer reality that brought me a level of fulfillment and joy and expansiveness that I knew was possible for me, but was not whilst I was either numbing emotions, I was not in alignment with soul, and I was disconnected from myself in different ways. There was addictions to work through. There were old pieces of, childhood wounding. There were all sorts of stuff that were, as with everybody, that needs to be alchemized. I didn't know that file path at that time. And what we have to understand is at this time on this planet, everybody is coming up to a similar choice point. So if you are getting to a point where it's like, I just don't really know what I want. I really don't know what I want. It's the invitation to, I would say at the moment, with the level of distraction that's happening, the level of censoring that's happening, so that you're only being able to see certain people's opinions that keep you in a certain level of consciousness, that keep you believing certain things, is to do a digital detox. I would highly recommend the power of a digital detox. And if you can do that over, even if it's a weekend, and in that weekend, rather than making yourself so busy that you are distracted, you are going to create space. You are going to create space so that you can come back to yourself. And that, for some people, might be very, very uncomfortable. And I would invite you to consider that literally this journey is about you in relation to you, your relationship with yourself. If you cannot have time on your own and you cannot be with yourself and you get body discomfort or you're feeling new emotions coming up and you try and suppress them because you're not used to feeling them, this is an invitation to not just know yourself, but really start to go deeper into your connection with yourself, which then opens up this channel of you being able to know very, very quickly if there is a red flag or something is off, because all of your being, you are tuned in to this intuitive channel that is you, not just from the body consciousness, but your soul gets to speak through you. You get to connect with, if this is women generally that I'm speaking and working with, you connect in with, the female reproductive organs, the womb, the heart, the breast. We get to connect in with that level of our inner goddess, and we get to know that tapped in desire. We get to know and connect into the parts that we have suppressed and silenced out of shame, guilt, everything else that we've been told to basically shut up and get on with the patriarchal way of living. The wheels are coming off at this time, meaning we are sitting on a volcano about to happen. The feminine has been wiped out, ignored, suppressed, demonized, actually. A woman in her power, a woman who has reclaimed all parts of herself and is not willing to play the role of, good girl, or, the polarity of that, which is like, the whore or the slut or whatever else. These are archetypes. They were all about separating us from ourselves. The more that we bring ourselves back to the wholeness of who we are inside, we're not influenced by the collective belief systems of what society says we should be, how we should feel, what we should be doing. If you are creating your experience through should, or through perhaps trying to emulate somebody you're seeing online, you yourself are silencing and muting yourself. Because until you spend that time figuring out who you are, you can't see your inner light and beauty, and it can't be radiated. Because this is the irony of this kind of awakening process, is that when we come in and do the inner work on ourselves, which is going to be, there's going to be inner child work. There's going to be a big deep dive into belief work, because we need to understand, okay, so what are my values? This would be number one. What are my values in life? What do I believe is possible for me in alignment with my values? And notice I said the word possible, because it's going to show you a load of limiting beliefs. When we are operating under looking at what everyone else is doing, looking at just what our family are doing, comparing ourselves to everyone else, we are limited by literally the lens of distortion that we are looking through. We are also operating often through the beliefs that we've inherited through the family that we've come in from, the level of limitation. We see this with money. We see this with what does it mean to, have love, security, relationships, joy, pleasure. All of that is running in the background. So remember that this consciousness shift is to take you out of operating on the 5% of your brain and look at the 95%, which is the energetic, which is literally creating your reality unconsciously. So when we start to go into that, we are looking at the subconscious, we're looking at body consciousness, we're looking at what trapped emotions, old fragmented parts of soul, inner child work. We're looking at quantum timeline work as well. So we're looking at, you have past lives, that you have inherited certain beliefs and programs and limitations that you have karma related to, and you've come into a certain family, certain workplaces, certain dynamics, so that you can basically correct the past, shall we say, or be aware so you can make different choices to clear out the past cause and effect from before. So when we're looking at know ourselves, this is a precipice from understanding, am I creating a life based on what I think I should be doing in accordance with XYZ, or actually is there something else that I need to explore in getting to know myself? And perhaps you're feeling numb. You can't feel anything. And this is really, really common, because we've not been taught to connect in with our body. We've not been taught to feel into our heart, into our wombs, into our, yoni area. Our body has consciousness, and it will speak to us very loudly. And actually, when we're looking at coming into alignment, we're actually looking at the mind, heart, and womb consciousness, so that there is that clear channel, because all of you has different levels of consciousness that will help you navigate being in alignment with yourself, but also attracting in more of what is in alignment with what you want. So I'd invite you to consider the digital detox. That means noticing how much that you are being influenced by what you're consuming. Can you spend some time on your own? Spend some time in nature. Create a ritual around giving yourself time, space. If it's not possible for you to do that, to take a weekend off, schedule it. Put in an hour. Starting to understand that the only way you're going to get to know yourself better is you have to create the time for that, which means if that's going to mean getting up earlier, if that's going to mean, creating a morning routine before everyone else gets up, if that means taking, half of your lunch break to go and do it, you have to start doing this. Because if you are not willing to take that time to get to know you, which helps you deepen your connection to soul, to source, to your body, to the intuitive information that wants to come through you, you're going to find it very hard to tap into the level of desire and excitement that's going to take you truly in alignment with where you are lined up to be at a soul level. We all have choice points and contracts and things and doors that are here to open for us. But when we're in distraction mode, which means we're busy there in the monkey mind, we're in the hamster wheel of life, which can be keeping ourselves so busy with work, actually meaning that you allow no spare time for yourself. Also keeping you in very masculine action, kind of, even the healing stuff. Like, it was interesting, I was talking to somebody earlier. Even some of the practices that are wellness are actually quite masculine energy based. Some of the breathwork techniques, like the Wim Hof stuff, some of the ice bath stuff, it is great, but it's in a masculine energy. So it's about you being able to cultivate that spaciousness that allows some of the feminine energy, the receivership, the intuitiveness to come through without discomfort. And remembering that you will often have been holding tension, trapped emotions, and trauma in the body, and that stuff will start to come up. Because when we give it space, you allow it to actually surface. And that's where the old emotions are. That's where the parts where you've rejected parts of yourself. This is where the inner child stuff comes up. Now, that in itself, if you don't know what's happening, can be quite overwhelming. But understand that until we look at what we're holding energetically and at soul level, we are creating our realities from the wounded parts of ourselves, because they're the ones that hold the energetic charge and are operating in the unconscious. And that is what we are calling in, and that is what we're attracting. And then we start to believe that, you know, nothing good happens here, or it's really hard to do XYZ, or I can't create this. A lot of it's defense mechanisms to try and protect you, because on some very unconscious level, you have had experiences in the past that have created these cycles, these patterns of trapped energy as well. So it's an invitation. The more that you get to perhaps start doing a journaling routine, start to ask yourself, what would bring me the most expansion? What would bring me the most joy? What things do I really enjoy doing? And another way to really tap into getting clarity is to start raising your frequency. Firstly, energy hygiene. Clear your energy morning and evening, and start to notice how much clearer you feel and how much more you can tap into your intuition, rather than all the nonsense of the thought forms that you're consuming through the conversations you have, or the people that you're surrounding yourself with, or the stuff online. At that point, start getting confident with communicating with your heart, with your womb, with your soul. You can do this through autonomic writing. You can do this by closing your eyes, going into the heart space and speaking it out loud. Don't do it in your head, speak it out loud. And then start to see what information comes back, what sensations. If you're finding yourself really overwhelmed with certain emotions, this is the time, especially if you're in that beginning stage, is to work with somebody, because they're going to basically fast track you through being really overwhelmed, potentially getting in a lot of fear and chaos, and they can help clear that. Not just talking therapies. You need somebody who can get to the root, that can work through the biohologram and the soul, because if not, you hear about these people that are doing the same healing work, the same lot of therapy, 10 years in a row, nothing's really changed. Why? Because they haven't got deep enough. Everything is evolving at this time. Everything. So that means we need to consider that there are other layers that actually hold the keys for us to be able to elevate our consciousness and our frequency. So remember that the version of you at this point, at this moment, has created from their frequency, from their vibration, from their choices, and from their decisions that they have been cultivating to this now moment. In this now moment, you have a choice how you respond to your outer reality. You have a choice around what you focus your attention on. You have a choice around clearing your energy to get the clarity, to get the downloads, to get the information. You have a choice to invest in yourself, to recognize that we're at a choice point of deep opportunity. At this time, we are not going to see in our outer reality mass consciousness change unless we individually start taking radical self-responsibility for ourselves, our choices, our own lives. Because it's not when we wait until it changes out there, because you could literally be there for, years and years and years. When you shift your inner desires, align it to soul, you start to do that inner work, you will start to notice the doors open in your outer reality. New people come in, new opportunities, because you have shifted your point of attraction to start to move from the set point you're in. This is really the cycle that you're going to see yourself going through each time that there is a need to expand, because the soul is wanting to expand. It's about growth. It's about expansion. And we have to remember that there is both an ascension and a descension path happening at the same time. A lot of people will be working at the moment in the 3D on the descension, meaning they've done a lot of body work. They've done a lot of tuning into the body, intuitive body work, which is amazing, which is great. They can move, stuck emotions through the body. However, that is great because that's beginning to look at, the lower 3 chakras, which is massive. We can't avoid doing this because if we cannot ground into the physical body, i.e. do the nervous system work, we can't manifest really and ground consistently because we have to bring in high consciousness in. So what happens for a lot of people doing energy work is that they are only working on the higher chakras. They're working on opening up the third eye, on trying to channel in light. They haven't cleared out the other layers of self to bring the embodiment in. So it means that every time you are going through the up level, I desire something new, I'm not excited by these things, I know there's something more for me, but I can't put my finger on it. It asks you to go inwards. It asks you to alchemize energetically through the lower level what is going on, i.e. what old beliefs, programs, soul fragments, whatever else it is that is coming up for you, that allows you then to start to bring in a higher frequency of your soul into the vessel, meaning you start to then work on connecting those higher channels to bring more light in and through you whilst grounded into the earth. So it means that you become this channel of yourself. So that's going to mean that you're going to let go of a lot of the beliefs that you've been holding on to about who you thought you were, because you're going to realize that a lot of what you've been projecting out in life is based on the unconscious wounding that you're carrying. So when we do that inner work, we naturally have very different set points energetically. We start to attract new experiences. We start to open up that channel for wealth, for money, for opportunities. Because ultimately, when you clear those channels, it's about light, it's energy. So this precipice that we're going through at this time, there is going to be a mass female awakening. And it's really interesting, actually, because we've got this International Women's Day and month, etc. I invite you to consider this is an opportunity for you to choose you, an opportunity to go, you know what, we can sit and complain about how the inequality is there and how these things aren't working. But until we start to do the inner work around our connection with ourselves, around not suppressing ourselves, not silencing ourselves, using the power of our voices, deciding that we're not available to be, suppressed in certain ways, we will find another way to earn our money. We'll find another way to create our experience that is no longer in the constructs of the old patriarchal setup. So that means people will change locations. We're going to see lots of people move house, lots of people leaving corporate environments that are not ready to evolve so that they can be authentically themselves in alignment with who they are. In doing so, recognizing your value, finding your voice, learning how to negotiate, commanding the money you're worth. If one employer is not going to give it to you, go elsewhere, use your feet. There are many, many jobs out there, no matter what timeline of information is being put out there in your feed, it's not the only truth. We have multiple realms of possibility and timelines available to us at any one point. We change the limiting beliefs we have that this is the only thing we have and this is the only reality there is, and everything shifts. I'm in communities of women who are doing this work, who are earning multiple 6 figures in their businesses that they've only been running for a couple of years, that are alchemizing real deep trauma that they've held on to, that's kept them in relationships that, are past their sell-by date. Maybe they've got experiences that, have meant that they've not had a relationship because they're literally frozen from the experiences they've had. Women that are going deep into alchemizing this stuff, anything that's holding them back from being themselves, anything that's holding them back from full self-expression. They're finding sisterhood. They are healing the wound of mistrust that's been in the dark sisterhood consciousness, that the witch's wound that works through all of us collectively, where even we see it in the press. Women are meant to pit against each other. We get to choose to alchemize that. And when we do, we attract in women who are not competing, women who recognize that actually our power is to come together and we can start to share our wisdom amongst each other, which then empowers each of us to elevate out of the patriarchal hold. It means that we start to create, with the money we have, we start to invest in other women that are doing things that we believe in. So we start to put more power into the feminine pound or the feminine dollar. We get to step into our power when we do this inner work. And when we begin to choose us, when we begin to say, look, okay, things aren't working out here in this way, but I know that I've created this through my beliefs. On some level, I believe I've deserved this. This is my standards. This is what I've created. When I raise my standards, when I get clear on my values, when I shift my beliefs, when I heal the traumas that have kept me playing small and accepting like scraps in life, when I do that inner alchemy, I am saying yes to something better. I'm saying yes to soul. I'm saying yes to new possibilities. And the thing is, we can't sit on the fence and just wait for it to happen. It doesn't happen like that. We need to follow up with the aligned action, meaning that we start to, when the invitation comes in, we start to say yes. When we know that there is an invitation that steps us out of our comfort zone to learn something new, to do the deeper work, to get the support in that, we know that if we want to elevate quickly, not in chaos, not with our blinders on, trying to get support from people who haven't actually trodden that path, we know that when those doors open and we say yes, everything shifts in alignment with that, because you are saying yes to the higher version of you. You're saying yes to your higher self. You're saying yes to, meaning that there is another version of you that is not living how you are at this moment, and they are accessible by you. But it means you have to start saying yes to being that version of you, and the standards that she has and the boundaries she has and the choice that she has, in order to start to dismantle what you've created in the level of illusion and limitation. What you've created in your experience at this time is based on who you've believed you are, but it's not the truth of who you are. It's a culmination of the overlays, the imprints, what you've been told, people's projections, people's expectations. And women are being asked to unravel this bullshit. And it doesn't need to take lifetimes. The belief work is so important though. Why? Because our beliefs are held on 4 different levels. That's why just tapping is not going to clear stuff on a soul level. So that means that when we hold a belief, it generally has been created through some level of trauma or distortion from another timeline. We carry it through. We also carry it through from our ancestral line. We cannot avoid being connected to our ancestors. It's something that we need to understand, that we do not necessarily align to their beliefs or values, yet we may be energetically operating whilst holding that consciousness. So the way that I work is I clear anything I do, I clear on those 4 levels and deeper, expanding into the different levels of soul. Why? Because when we do one piece, you don't want the energy just coming back in and you get another loop. You want to elevate and stay at the new set point quickly, elegantly, without chaos, doing it in a way that feels good in your body. And yes, there's going to be learning new ways and perspectives, and also sometimes even a little bit of sadness about who you thought you were, or maybe letting go of the perceived future of what you thought you were creating, but you know deep inside that that wouldn't have fulfilled you because you knew you weren't being true to you. All of this is the inside job, all of it. And I had a client the other day who was saying, you know, I kept on getting stuck in this pattern and this experience, and I couldn't move forward. I felt really blocked. So I thought that I would just move to another country and that would resolve it. And I said, whatever you are running away from, or whatever you are having difficulties with here and now, whether you leave that relationship, whether you go to another country, all of that goes with you unless you heal those parts of yourself, unless you understand why you were attracting in those things and what it is within you that needs to be seen, witnessed, or alchemized and healed and elevated to change what you're accepting, what you're attracting, so your set point is different. How powerful does that make you? Meaning that there is really no limit, because you can find a way to understand how to shift your outer reality by understanding how you are creating your reality from the inner beliefs, programs, frequency. So looking at the question we came in with, which is, you know, around how do I get clarity? It's the inside job. And it's going to start with a daily routine of creating space for yourself, connecting with your intuition. It could be journaling. If you want to go fast and you want to get deep without the confusion, that's where you come and work with me. That's where you come into one of my spaces. I have a new program that's opening up on the 20th of March, and we're going to do 4 months. 4 months to go into each area of your life and we will be doing energy work to alchemize this stuff that's an illusion. It's not yours, or it's stuff that you're holding that is trapped energy that is blocking you from having what you desire. We're going to look at the blind spots. We're going to look at the behaviors and the mindset. And there's something I call the Phoenix mindset, and I'll be teaching this. The Phoenix mindset really is about this evolution of self. It's about this rebirthing, knowing there is always another level and another level of your soul that is ready to be birthed through you, meaning that those flames of transmutation get to run through you so that you get to elevate past the blocks, knowing that when you're tapping into the quantum field, it's infinite potentials, it's infinite possibilities. But if you are stuck in a mindset and a belief system that is locked into limitation, you cannot hold your frequency in the higher realms, which is why when I'm working with somebody, we are elevating on the multi-levels of being, so you hold a new set point. So things start to flow, things start to move for you. And knowing that trying to navigate this on your own, we weren't designed to do that. That's why working with somebody that can see in you what you can't yet see in yourself means that you get to shift and integrate and embody quicker. Big piece here, embodiment. Embodiment means I teach the toolkit so that you get to navigate and self-source and do this stuff yourself, because I don't want codependency. This isn't about a hierarchy with a guru. This is about you going deep with somebody and getting a toolkit so that you have the necessary tools to be able to understand yourself better, so that you can bounce back from overwhelm, so you can then turn the dial when you want to elevate into a new experience, or create more money, or bring a new product into your business, or create a new business, or whatever else it is. It's learning a new tool set for integrating the multi-levels of your being, which we are all being initiated through. It means understanding there are pieces within you that you were completely unconscious of. There are many women working within the corporate worlds and many of the kind of fast-tracked systems, we would call it, that are so locked in their heads, in their masculine energy, and the only thing that will stop them to understand a different way is often burnout. Because they can't feel, they're not tapped into their sexual energy, they've lost their libidos, they can't feel their body, they're numb, they're not excited by life anymore, there's no appetite for life, that spark, that magnetism isn't there, they're burnt out, they're on a hamster wheel, there is no time, everything's limited. That is a belief construct, and those behaviors and that way of living is in alignment with it. You've got a choice. You can find a new way which will ease you off that hamster wheel and help you find, a new opportunity, new business, new whatever. So you get to create your life more on your terms. Or often your body will create an illness to stop you, or there'll be burnout, or there'll be some intervention, because we are not designed to be only operating in one level of our consciousness or one level of masculine energy. So the patriarchal system that has created this kind of like mentality that we have to be go, go, go and just creating for the machine, it wants you like that, because it doesn't allow you to have the critical thinking of who you are, what your values are, aligning to soul, aligning to what is connected to your heart, and starting to live authentically to yourself, because that is sovereignty. And that is something that we are reclaiming, even knowing that we have free will and sovereignty ourselves. How will this show up in our businesses? It means that we start to have a wider level of compassion for the people around us, when we get to have deeper levels of compassion for ourselves. When we begin to understand that we individually have been operating through our wounded selves, we begin to have compassion for why other people might be behaving certain ways. We start to be able to bring more heart-centeredness into the world through our interactions with others. But we also get to have very elevated and we call this integrated boundary setting. We get to raise our standards. We begin to understand that we are not at the mercy of, quite so much of everything going on around us. When we know who we are, we hold our standards, we hold our boundaries, and we get really laser clear on our North Star. And you can't get any of that if you are not willing to take that step into doing the inner work and changing your routine to build an inner connection. That inner connection is the key to figuring out desire. Desire will not be flaming if you are in masculine energy and you are hustle mentality. It needs space. It needs rest. It needs expansiveness. And when we don't allow ourselves to wait until we get burnt out to tap into that, it means we can start incorporating 5 minutes, 10 minutes here during the day. We can start to bring more creativity into our experience. We can start to schedule joyful things that you enjoy. It can be very simple things that allow you to come back to yourself. Beginning to understand that if you've been triggered, it's showing you something within you that is part of the unhealed part of you that is not feeling safe, that is alerting you to something that needs you to go in and listen to it. Now, we've got a lot of change happening at the moment on this planet, and that's not going to change, as in it's going to continue. So we really do need to know what is ours and what is someone else's. You know, if someone's kicking off and in a trigger, they often project blame, knowing that that isn't necessarily yours. They're operating through their woundedness as well. So we've got this collective period of massive evolution. The more that you take responsibility for your own stuff and start to navigate and have a toolkit, means that you get the clarity to know when it's time to take that leap from maybe corporate into something else. Perhaps, you know, with the emotional intelligence and the understanding that you get from transforming your own experience, that inspires you to write a book or to join a new community or do something that could create positive change in the world. Not to mention be an amazing conscious leader in the workplace that can really enhance the culture, the environment for others, and create positive change. Wherever you're at, you're there for a reason, but everybody is being asked to step into a deeper level of being so that they begin to start to evolve how we're operating on this planet, which is not working anymore. And we know that because it's like so many things are coming up to show us that we need change. And it's not about picketing the change. It's about being the change within yourself and showing up from that embodied version, living it, breathing it, being authentic, owning your own truth, and knowing that your own truth will evolve. You will begin to dismantle the beliefs you've taken on, you know, on that next level and next level and next level. It's about understanding that this is part of evolution. You get to evolve, you get to change your mind, you get to grow, you get to choose that you can have both, you know, a life of impact where you are living from your heart and creating heart-centered vision through your business or artistry of whatever you're bringing through, but you also get to have the great lifestyle. You get to have the space to relax. You get to look after your health. Previously, we've been living in this consciousness, which is an or consciousness, meaning I can only have the career or the family life. We're moving into an and consciousness, an abundance consciousness. It's a higher consciousness of our being, which knows more truth around our ability to create what we desire. The sacrifice energy is something that is only existing in the 3D reality, meaning sacrifice means that, you know, all consciousness, I have to sacrifice or give up part of myself in order to have something. That isn't universal truth, but it is a very strong belief system. Knowing what we've just shared, you can change your beliefs. You can choose to align to something else. There's always this and something better. I know that if this is a no, then I will manifest and create something different because I know that I'm worthy. I know there is something available for me. I get to work with my spiritual teams who will support me and align me in bringing through what it is I desire. I get to work with the more infinite, powerful version of self rather than the self that has been made to feel hopeless, limited, stuck. That's only one point in this now moment, and it gets to shift when you choose. So I'm going to invite you to do something. I'm going to pop in the comments the Soul Wealth program, which is my new free program, which gets you started on connecting with your higher self, your soul, seeing what guidance you get, connecting in with the soul of your business to find out what your business needs to show you, what's out of alignment, what ideas do they need to bring through. There is an energy clearing there, so you can start to align money, meaning the expansiveness that is actually available to you, along with following heart and soul. Because it's all energy. The more we tap into more of who we are, the more of that can come through you. So this is about you doing the inner work to expand the abundance in the outer world. So it's clearing the vessel so that we can then expand to also hold more abundance. What most people are doing is trying to manifest through the head, through the mind, through the limitation. And the container, the vessel, has not been cleared to hold the level of true abundance that's available for you, and it will not be able to manifest as quickly as it could do if you are still holding on to a lot of stuck energy in the body, in the energy field, and that there are old agreements that are keeping you limited, like poverty vows or vows of servitude, or certain things that are playing out that can very quickly be cleared when we do soul clearing. If you can imagine, a shaman will work with somebody to clear the energy, the energetic roots that are blocking somebody and creating a certain experience. That is what I'm doing, but you're not needing to come and see a shaman every time. You are being given what I call the Soul Architect series, which is my technology, which gives you the conscious awareness of what you're clearing, what you're actually alchemizing, what we are then opening ourselves up for. So more abundance, the new belief systems, the new behaviors, the new opportunities. And it's about that inner alignment through connecting to yourself. That is my system. And literally, this level of evolution, to step out of victim, to step out of self-sacrifice, to step out of the burnout model, the fear-based model, the way we get to alchemize out of that and reset to abundance is we have to know that we have to be able to come back to that inner world. We've got a lot of scarcity going on because the world events are playing out a certain timeline. That doesn't mean that your energy set point needs to be at that timeline. If you are energetically aligned to abundance because you've cleared your energy field and you are holding a different frequency set point, you will constantly be like for like attracting what you are. So each person taking responsible for their own soul, energy, alignment, focus of attention means that you become deeply powerful to attract what you want, which does not need to be the same as what everybody else is worrying about happening. It's a different timeline experience. And this is what literally thousands of people in my communities are doing and have been doing since I launched my business back in 2017. And there are many people that are, fully on the way and doing this kind of work, that are lawyers, that are doctors, that are business owners, that are mothers. It doesn't discriminate. You don't have to become a healer in order to learn how to do your own inner alchemy. And that's what I teach. Those are the tools that I share with you. So I'm going to pop that program in there. I'd invite you to get onto my mailing list because there's a lot of little invites that I send out, and I run lots of, I get guided that I need to do an activation tomorrow and I'm going to do it at this time, and I will send that out to my mailing list. So all of those people get to know and get to say yes to the opportunity. The door opens. I'm always tuning into the collective fields to see what's happening with my community and how I can be of greater service, how I can offer support, how I can bring through another perspective that releases, fear or scarcity and opens up a new level of being, because actually you're always safe, you're always provided for. And that tapping into self-sourcing is deeply powerful when we're in a very, very changeable environment with a lot of fear. Fear is a frequency. We do not need to be living in it constantly. So again, this is where energy clearing really important, because we're taking on a lot of stuff at the moment. And if you want to be that clear vessel that knows that you're abundant, knows that you will always attract what it is you desire to you when you're focused on it, when you get really clear about who you are and you make it non-negotiable that you're going to accept scarcity anymore. I know that's one reality I could follow, but I know there is another reality. That may also be a big leap of faith in the beginning, but I invite you to consider that this is a consciousness expansion. If you want something different, you have to be that new version of yourself. So it's be that version, do from that version, be, do, have. It's how we manifest. So that means if that version of you holds different beliefs, it's about you embodying those new beliefs. It's about you holding that energetic set point. This is how we're creating and manifesting, be, do, have. So again, super powerful, amazing toolkits that you can incorporate into your day that do not take very long. There are also many toolkits that I have that I teach my clients of things that you can use whilst you're in work if you come across a overwhelm period and you need to reset, because we're not escaping our realities. We're not running away. We are essentially using these toolkits to integrate soul into our daily experience, knowing that the more that we're tapped into soul, the more that we're going to be aligned to the highest timeline of wealth, money, abundance, prosperity, happiness, and joy. It's like literally that is the purest version of self that we are tapping into. So this means, how much opportunity do we have at this time? How much opportunity would it mean that you get to create if you were to sit more in your abundance, in your truth, in your light, than in your scarcity and your fear and your woundedness? How much could you influence and your voice be heard and impacted if you were sharing from the version of yourself that has been able to heal those parts of yourself that keep you playing small or don't want you to be seen or whatever else? Because there's always a next level. There's always a level of expansion. And at the moment, we need women's wisdom. We need their knowledge. We need them to show up. We need women to be seen in their power, in their authenticity, and also showing up unapologetically for who they are at whatever age, because that's how we start to shift things, because there is such an external narrative around what women should and shouldn't be, do, have, etc., that we have to break free from it by being unapologetically ourselves. And that means tapping into that inner version, the inner part of ourselves that is ready to be reborn, her authenticity. And if you are desiring to step into that level of evolution, that soul activation, that inner knowing of your power, and that it gets to be easy because then you get into flow because you're connected to more of yourself, then reach out to me. Have a look on my website, www.purelight1111.com. There are one-to-one sessions. The calendar is open. I also have the Diamond Brilliance one-to-one program, which is over 3 months. And I also have a new program that's going to be a group container for 4 months, where you will get both group work, meaning we're doing the energetic alchemy stuff, we're doing the Q&A coaching, but we're also doing some one-to-one pieces, because I feel the best work that I'm seeing people being able to create in all areas of their lives is when they also have the one-to-one support. If you want to move fast and you don't want to sit in the discomfort, it's about getting as close proximity to the support that you can, so that you can radically see what you cannot see at this time and make the changes quickly. It means that things move quickly because you are not sat in fear and confusion. It means you integrate and embody a lot quicker because you have said yes to the support. So again, it's choose your own adventure. Some people, like myself, I like to work with somebody one-to-one, and I will go intense, and then I will go and make all the changes myself. I'm very accountable. I'm an action taker as well. I don't sit on things. When I get guidance, I tune in, I feel into it, I make the changes, I pivot. I'm working in that flow. I very much trust my teams, my intuition, and what's playing out. So if you are new to this, all of these might be new ways of being. And it gets to be easier when you're surrounded by others who have similar aspirations to thrive, to also have learnings from each other, because you will all have different things you can experience and learn from each other, but get to do it in a way that, rather than self-sabotage coming up, inner child wounding playing out so that you make excuses why you won't take the action when it's a wounded part of you. That's one of the big things that's coming up at the moment. We get to look at core wounding. We get to look at the identity that you have to change when you leave, say, corporate into running your own business. There is a change in who you are and who you've been, and sometimes that people are not prepared for that. It's about that ability to help alchemize and integrate those things very quickly, so you can continue on in confidence, in flow, in expansion. When we try and figure this stuff out in our heads with nobody that can give us any other perspective or viewpoint, or actually a completely new lens half the time, we often will get stuck and we will not be able to hold really the changes that we have just consumed. So this is about setting yourself up for success. This is about learning something new about yourself, and also a process of being able to do that inner inquiry again as you evolve. And that's going to take time. It's going to take your commitment. So that's why it's spread over 4 months. It's something that, you choose your own adventure. You can radically have a completely different experience over that period. And because we're working with the energetics, things move fast, because generally the things that are blocking you initially are the energy pieces. So we don't start mindset until we've cleared at root what's really, holding people back in the different areas of their lives, including money, relationships, connection to their bodies, because everything is interrelated. And that's the beauty of the way that I work, is that we work both in the high energetics, but also the grounded into your day-to-day experience, so that you know the changes of behavior, the mindset and the perspectives that need to be tweaked so that you can actually keep that flow of abundance and momentum happening, and knowing how it feels in your body to be comfortable with the expansion of things moving quickly, because money likes speed. Money likes to come in and move quickly. If that overwhelms you, you contract yourself. So we work a lot with how we deal with the expansion of taking that next step, taking that leap out of the comfort zone into that next level of self, and in a way that you feel safe and grounded in doing it, and safe and grounded in manifesting quite quickly, which may be quite new to you. So I will be sharing more about that. Make sure you're on the mailing list. I will be sharing a sales page on that. So start off with connecting more with soul, with your higher self, with getting some intuitive understanding around, you know, perhaps what is the area that's blocking you. Ask yourself, you know these answers within you, but you just often haven't stopped to take the time to journal or to ask yourself those questions, or to be asking your teams for the clarity so that you can actually start to see the positive changes in your experience. So if this has been useful, leave some comments. Also, would really appreciate it if you are signed into YouTube, subscribe and like. If this has been useful for you, then share it, because then we get to create this ripple effect. More people get to experience the light. There'll be something in here that you got from this, and something that other people can get from this as well. It also opens up the doors for them to start taking their own navigation of their inner work by activating soul wealth, which is really connecting to source, soul, and money. So we get to choose. There are so many amazing opportunities at this time, and aligning yourself to that is just as possible as aligning yourself to scarcity. You get to choose. So sending you lots of love. I hope this has been really useful, and I will be back again next week. And also, if you have questions, send them to the mailbox, which is askallera@mail.com. I look at what's coming in, what would be useful for the collective to receive, and then, like this one, I will share. So yeah, super excited to understand if this has been useful for you. If you are aware of how to connect into your intuition, or that's something that you are wanting more support and guidance on, because I have different programs around that as well. And let me know your feedback. Sending you lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye.